Hello everyone, it's Eride Ranger here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Eride Pro SR. Last week we took a deep dive into the specs of the SS 3.0, and this week we're going to be doing the same thing with the SR. Now SR is a new type of naming that we haven't seen from Eride before. We've seen the S, we've seen the SS, but now we have SR, so let's talk about some of the key differences that make this bike unique. Just like last time, we're going to be breaking this video down into key components. First, we're going to talk about the battery, then the motor and controller, the suspension, the wheels and tires, the sprocket chain and belt, the controls up on the handlebars, the frame and build of the bike, and finally, we're going to look at the price. Let's talk about the battery on the Eride Pro SR. So at first glance, it seems to be the same as the 3.0, but I noticed two key differences. So first of all, 72 volts, 50 amp hours, 3600 watt hours are all the same as the 3.0. The one key difference that I noticed on this line is that it says Samsung swappable lithium battery. And that's not something that the 3.0 said. It only said swappable lithium battery. And I pointed out in my other video that this is not normal for Eride. They almost always include Samsung there. If we take a look at the 2.0, this one does say Samsung. So I'm wondering now if the 3.0 was supposed to be a Samsung battery, or if they didn't put the nice batteries in the 3.0, they put the nice batteries in the SR. That's what I'm wondering. Surronster did mention that there's a higher output battery management system on the SR, and I bet that's because there's a stronger controller, and we'll get into that soon. Key difference number 3 on the Pro SR is the motor. Visually, we can see that it's different than the 3.0 motor. From this image, we can see that it's got the numbering up top here, and looking at the 3, there's no numbering up top, but it is off to the side. So these are different designs, different motors, and the one on the SR is definitely stronger. The 3.0 had some great stats, 6 kilowatt rated power and 15.8 kilowatt peak power. The SR is even stronger. It's got 10 kilowatts rated power and 25 kilowatts peak power. This thing is a beast. The controller on this thing is a 25 kilowatt controller, 72 volts, and we're just assuming that based on the motor and the battery. We don't know what type of motor this is, and we don't know what type of motor the 3.0 is, but we do know the 2.0 had a PMSM permanent magnet synchronous motor. We're assuming Eride is not changing the motor design without highlighting it. So we're assuming it's the same type. All this power means that this bike can go 70 miles per hour. Absolutely insane. And the wheel peak torque is 630 Newton meters, even stronger than the 3.0, which had a large 520 Newton meters. The suspension for the Pro SR is a complete mystery. All we have is that it's advanced suspension and fast ace adjustable sports suspension. And from the pictures, it does look very similar to the 3.0. And this one told us it was a closed cartridge suspension and also fast ace adjustable suspension. And what I'm pretty sure is the exact same picture for the front forks. That code right there is the exact same as this one. It's the same photo. I will note on Surronster's video that these are not the same caps as we saw on the 3.0. That one had like a blue and like a brass or copper cap, and these are blacked out. Now, so these might be the same forks, just in black. I tried looking on the Fast Ace website to find these ones like I did last time, and not only could I not find them, I couldn't find the same ones I did last time. The page is not here anymore, and I couldn't find it anywhere. If you're wondering what the suspension is on the 3.0, it is the ALX 13RC 2.0. And it does look very similar to what we're seeing in the SR photos. These are the colored tops I was talking about on the 3.0. And the design to them do look very similar to these, just in black. That might be why they recycled the photo for it. Now the rear suspension is another mystery. Surronster noted that the rear suspension is new, and that's because this bike is even heavier. However, there's no mention of the rear suspension again, and in our product photos, they again use the same photo where it tells us it's the BDA 53RC, the exact same photo from the 3.0 with the BDA 53RC. So maybe it's just been adjusted for the heavier weight, but it seems to be the same again. We also know from Surronster's video that the SR has these Japanese fork seals. They would be the same. Now, the wheels are tricky. They are different. There are these knobbier tires, but the product page uses the same photo between the 3.0 and the SR. On my last video for the 3.0, I did mention that if you look closely on this, it says Chow, and it has this symbol on it. And I did find Chaoyang tires with the same symbol, but I could not find either tire on their website. The combination tires that look like the Shenkos were mentioned to be exclusive by Surronster, so that seems to be the case since they're not available on the website. I would also wager that these are unique as well. Actually, this says the front wheel is 8100, and that does match up with the tire size for the SR, so the Chaoyangs are probably on the SR. We also know the rear wheel is 190, and the 19 and the 18-inch do match up to the 3.0 specs, but these ones are measured in inches, 2.75 and 3. So I'm betting this photo is actually not the 3.0 tire. Now, did they source them from the same company? Maybe. The hub and spoke design, again, uses the same photo as the 3.0 product. So definitely beefier than what we're used to seeing from Eride on the 2.0. Nice and strong. Everything seems to be the same. All the photos are the same. All we actually know is that there are knobbier tires on the SR than on the 3.0. The brakes on the SR are the same DOT4 brakes as on the 3.0 that we had a look at on my last video. We also had assumed that the 3.0 had 220mm rotors. Making this video right now, I just noticed that the rotor size is now listed for the 3.0 at 220mm on both the front and rear. And the Pro SR also has that on here. The rotor size is 220mm front and rear, although there is no mention of thickness still, so although they're thicker rotors than the 2.0, we still don't know how thick they are now. The sprocket uses the same photo as on the 3.0 yet again, so I'm figuring that this is the same 58 tooth, 428 chain on the SR and the 3.0. Surronster didn't mention anything about that being a difference with the SR. However, he did mention that the primary belt is even wider than on the 3.0. Now, when we were looking at the 3.0 in my last video, we didn't get a size for it directly from this site, but we did some math from the 2.0 to figure it out. So the 2.0 had a 560 belt, and Surronster told us that the 3.0 belt was 15% wider, so we figured out that the 3.0 had a 640 belt, and because the SR belt is even wider, it's something above that, but we don't have anything precise. We do know that the SR has to also have an even wider primary belt pulley, and it's the same self-cleaning design that's meant to eject rocks and debris. Let's talk about the controls on the SR, and they are very, very different than the 3.0. So first, let's talk about the main controls. Nothing's really pictured in these photos, but on the freeze frame of Surronster's video, we can see that this looks entirely different than the 3.0, than the 2.0, than anything we've seen from Eride before. What I think is going on here is that M is for mode, and that shows up on the screen here, and it's just a cycle through. There's this triangle of arrows, kind of like a recycle symbol with a lightning bolt in the center, and I think that's what activates this thumb regen throttle, which is unique to the SR and honestly very nice to see. And it seems to be active here on the screen right now. Surronster did mention that it was weird to have a thumb regen throttle facing the wrong side, so he had to kind of reach across with his thumb to hit it. But on our product page, it shows it on the other side of the handlebar, and that would make more sense as a squeeze throttle. So it's weird that they used a thumb throttle mechanism for this. One thing I don't like about the SR is that we no longer have a reverse or horn. The horn just seems to be completely missing. And there's no mention of reverse. Maybe it's one of the modes you can cycle through, but somehow I doubt it. The front of the bike seems to be completely taken up by the controller. There doesn't seem to be room for a horn on this one. Yeah, no horn at all. This screen seems to be the exact same screen that they use on the 3.0 and 2.0, the one they've been using all along. The ignition is now a 3-position ignition, and that was mentioned particularly on the SR in Surronster's video, so we think the 3.0 is just 2-position like the 2.0 was. So this means you can have the bike on accessory so that you can use these charging ports and things while the rest of the bike is off. These charging ports are the same as the 3.0 and 2.0, and there's also the same battery charger port on the side of the bike here. One thing that isn't mentioned on the SR is the dual hull throttle that Surronster mentioned on the 3.0. I would assume that's the same between the two models. As for the modes that can be cycled through on this bike, Surronster didn't explicitly list them, but he did race the bikes and he did mention trying out different modes. He mentioned Eco, Sport, and Race mode on the SR. Now the light switch for this also says headlight slash taillight switch, which is the same as the 3.0. So we're guessing we can turn the headlight on and off again, as well as a complete blackout mode that has both lights off. There is no mention for the Bluetooth app on the SR that is introduced for the 3.0, but I would also assume that this has that as well, simply because they seem to be pretty parallel with the upgrades. Alright, let's look at some of the frame and other specifics of the bike. The weight limit is listed as 302 pounds, the exact same as the 3.0. The unit weight is heavier. It is 183 pounds compared to 167 pounds, so that's an extra 16. Now we're guessing, remember that the battery is probably high 30s or low 40s in weight, so that would put the weight of this bike without the battery around 143. We can see that the seat height is listed here at 830 millimeters or 32.7 inches, and that's the same as the 3.0 and the same as the 2.0, so that's all stayed the same. We finally have a measurement for the wheelbase, and that is 1260 millimeters or 49.6 inches. That was not included in the 3.0, but it is the same as the 2.0. So we're guessing the 3.0 is also the exact same wheelbase as the other two bikes. So that's nice to confirm. We don't have any new information about the jack shaft on the SR, but again, I would assume it's the same as the 3.0. And we don't have anything precise for that, but Surronster did tell us that the 3.0 has a 20% larger jack shaft when compared to the 2.0. There's no mention of the battery tray, but I would also assume that is improved just like the 3.0 to fit the new battery. There's no mention of the 1-inch stem riser, but it does seem to be pictured here, so I would assume that's the same as the 3.0. There was no mention of the skid plate design that was new on the 3.0, but in the photos, this one looks even more different and honestly really cool looking. I actually really like the SR skid plate. There's no mention of the pegs, but they seem to be pictured the exact same as the new 3.0 pegs. The frame seems to be the same design, however, Surronster did say that the main frame, the subframe, and the swing arm have all been reinforced. So it's kind of funny that it has the same weight limit, but it's also meant to be ridden harder, so it does make a little bit of sense. The design for the headlight and taillight seems to be the same between this, the 3.0, the 2.0, and all that. And this unit will also come with a VIN number. Another thing Surronster mentioned was the longer MX style seat, and that seems to be a little different. It states that the unit is shipped with the short seat, and only the first 300 customers will get an extra long seat shipped separately. So it seems compatible with a long seat, but after that first 300, it does not seem to come with it, like Surronster was saying. Another thing is the tires. Surronster mentioned that you can get these new tires, or you can get the combination tires that come on the 3.0. However, I don't see that as an option anywhere. I will say when I ordered the 3.0, they did have to email me to confirm some details, so maybe that's where they'll ask about the tire preference. I'm not sure, but I don't see it as a checkout option anywhere on the SR page. Let's talk about price. The SR comes in at a whopping $5,600, although that is only $600 more than the 3.0. So let's recap about some of these differences that the SR has over the 3.0. You're getting a better battery management system with larger output to support the stronger motor and stronger controller and higher top speed. You might be getting better battery cells, we're not sure. You might be getting different front and rear suspension, we're not sure, but we think it's the same as the 3.0. You're getting wider, knobbier tires unless you opt out of them. You're getting a wider primary belt and primary belt pulley. You're gaining a race mode on your controls. You might be losing a reverse mode, we're not sure, but we think so. You are losing the horn. You are gaining the variable regen throttle. And the frame is reinforced, the main frame, the subframe, and the swing arm. And for all these improvements, the bike is an extra 16 pounds, which does make sense. So is all that worth $600? If you were to buy the 3.0 and try to upgrade it later, you're going to spend way more money than that. So I do think it's a good value. But do you need all those improvements? I would argue that the 3.0 is more than enough bike for almost everybody. However, this is a bike meant to be ridden hard and has all the strength and power it needs to get you through that rough terrain. So if you are buying this bike to ride it hard and push it to its limits, then yes, the extra 600 is absolutely worth it. Go for the SR, no questions asked. If you made it this far in the video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. I am Eride Ranger and I just made this channel for e-bike content. We're going to be going over the 3.0 when I get it in the mail, and we're going to be doing some ride footage soon, so get ready for that. Comment if there's anything I missed in this video, any questions you have, anything else you want me to cover, and until next time, ride safe!